Wonderful introduction. Appreciate that. I'm happy to be here tonight, and I will start talking about the nonpartisan primary and ranked choice voting. And then if there are questions also about the special primary election, I'm willing to take those on as well. So I'm going to try this. I'm still not very good at this. You'd think I would have mastered it after all this time of doing presentations, but let me see. Need to share a screen here and I'm not getting my, okay, let's try this again. I am gonna share my screen. Can you see now a big blue screen? Marge, can you see a blue screen that says nonpartisan top 4 primary?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm seeing a black screen.
Okay, what's going on here? Well, I have the blue circle, so hang on just 1 second. Something's going on with my computer right now. So appreciate your patience.
There we go. We see it now.
Okay.
Yes.
I had that blue circle, you know, that just spins and spins forever when
The
you
scary
can't,
circle of death,
and you're like,
yes.
what is going on with my computer? And it makes me a cranky computer user.
All right. So while Gail is getting ready to get started here, I'll just remind folks that if you have questions throughout her presentation, please enter them into the Q&A box and we'll get to them at the end. Thanks. Go ahead, Gail.
All righty. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about the nonpartisan primary and the ranked choice voting general election. This was a result of a voter initiative in the 2020 general election, and it was enacted into law in February of 2021 because it won by a vote difference of 3,781 votes. So it's not something the division just thought, oh, this would be really great to do. This was actually a citizens-driven initiative, and the voters of Alaska voted this law into effect. And because it's a ballot initiative, it cannot be changed or cannot be repealed or substantially changed for 2 years from the date in which it is enacted. So now you should see, and if Catherine, can you tell me, can you see a nonpartisan top 4 primary and a sample ballot?
Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect. It's working so far. Okay, so we're going to talk about the nonpartisan primary. We're trying not to mention top 4 in the primary because it seems to confuse people, and they think sometimes some people are thinking they get to vote for 4 candidates in a primary, and that's not the case. The primary system is still just a vote for 1 in each race, but the ballot will look much, much different. So the ballot measure required that this statement here at the top, a candidate's designated affiliation does not imply that the candidate is nominated or endorsed by the political party or group, or that the party or group approves of or associates with the candidate, but only that the candidate is registered as affiliated with the party or group. But it's very clear to make it known to voters that this is not a party nominating process, and the parties are not nominating candidates anymore in the primary. So the big change for voters when you go to vote in the primary is that you will see, as you've seen with your special primary election ballot, hopefully you've all received those, is you have 1 ballot. And that race is just a United States representative race, but you'll see 48 candidates are on that ballot, and they are of a variety of party affiliations. In prior primary elections, there were ballots that, and the parties had dictated what candidates appeared on their ballot and who had access to their ballot. So you would remember perhaps going to your precinct and having to select which ballot you wanted. There was a ballot that had candidates with only Republican candidates on it. And the Republican Party said if you were registered as Republican, undeclared, or nonpartisan, you could get this ballot. And the other ballot had Democratic candidates, Libertarian, Alaskan Independents. And if you were registered a certain way, you could have access to that ballot. That's all gone away. And now it's the same ballot for everybody, no matter what your party affiliation is as a voter. And no matter what the candidate's party affiliation is, they're going to all be on the same ballot. So in this example here for United States Senator, you'll see candidates with different political party affiliations appearing on this ballot. So in this example, we have a registered Libertarian, registered Republican, nonpartisan, registered Democrat, and a registered Alaskan Independents, all running for United States Senator, all showing up on the same ballot. There might be a possibility where there are less than 4 candidates running. And if that's the case, after all the votes are tallied, all 3 candidates or 2 candidates would then advance to the general election ballot. I think the biggest change for candidates is that for governor and lieutenant governor, now when they file for office, they have to file as a team. So they have to declare jointly who their running mates is. In prior elections, there was a race simply just for governor and a race for lieutenant governor. And the winning candidate for governor for Party A at the end of the primary was paired up for the winning candidate for Party A for lieutenant governor. And people would then only see them as a team come the general election. This is different. You'll see them now as a team in the primary. So again, the primary election does not serve to determine the nominee of a political party or group, only serves to narrow the number of candidates whose names will appear on the general election ballot. And that was, excuse me, that was part of the ballot initiative language. So the changes are, there's no longer a nominating petition process, meaning that in order to get on the general election ballot, you have to run in the primary or file as a write-in. There was a process before in which candidates could file nominating petitions, and they could bypass the primary, go out and collect signatures of a certain number and run for all of the races, but that's no longer allowed. Candidates choose their affiliation and how it will appear on the ballot based on how they're registered to vote. And the governor and lieutenant governor are going to, they file together. So now we'll move into ranked choice voting for the general. This is only for the general election, not for primary elections, only for a general election. So previously, the general election was operated under a winner takes all system. Whoever got the most votes would win. So say there was a race with 4 candidates, the winner could have been decided with 25% plus 1 vote. Well, this, the Better Elections Initiative, as it was known as, changed that. You'll see the same notice that we're required to put on the primary election ballot appears here again, telling people that their party affiliation, the candidate's party affiliation, does not necessarily mean they're endorsed or approved by the party. Ranking candidates other than your first choice, ranking other candidates does not affect your first choice. You can rank 1, you can rank as many as you want. However, we just want people to rank only 1 candidate for first, 1 candidate for second, third, fourth. Don't double rank candidates, give them more than 1 ranking, because that, as you will hear and see in the examples later, causes, there are some issues with that, and some of that is based on the law. As in the past, judicial retention candidates and ballot measures obviously will still be yes/no votes. So I have now some grids that kind of will give some examples of how ballots can be marked and what will happen if you mark your ballot this way. So this grid has our 4 candidates in rows and a row for a write-in candidate. And then there are, because the ballot initiative did not get rid of write-in candidates, so we still are required to have a space on the ballot for a write-in candidate, hence the 5th choice column in case you want to also vote for a write-in candidate. So in this example, we've given Chick Hicks was given a first choice, and Heather Olson, the oval is filled in the 2nd choice column for Heather, and Naomi Jackson, the 3rd choice oval is filled in for Naomi, and Tiffany Strait has the 4th choice oval filled in that 4th choice column. So this is just one example of many of a proper way to mark your ballot if you as a voter want to exercise all of the rankings that you can. Mark 1 column for each candidate. Again, don't mark like Chick Hicks. Don't give Chick a 1st and 2nd choice vote, or you'll see in some other examples. So it's best 1 choice for each candidate, up to 4 or 5 if there's a write-in also. So my second example shows all the candidates got a 1st choice ranking. This is an invalid ballot for the following reason, is we're not able to determine who this voter wanted to get as their 1st choice. So this ballot for this race would not count because we're not able to assign a 1st choice ranking to any candidate because we're not able to determine voter intent. So this is an example of marking all candidates as your 1st choice. The next example is showing a 1st choice for candidate A and then skipping your 2nd and 3rd choice and then marking candidate C as your 4th choice. Don't do this either, because the law says that if you do this, your ballot becomes inactive because you're at the point where the 2 sequential skips takes place. So in this example, candidate A would get a 1st choice vote, but there would be no more valid votes for this race on this ballot because the law says you cannot skip 2 or more sequential rankings. This last example I have shows candidate A receiving a 1st and 2nd choice vote, and candidate B receiving a 3rd choice vote, and candidate D receiving a 4th choice vote. Well, in this situation, we are able to determine voter intent. So candidate A would receive 1 1st choice vote and only 1. And if candidate A somehow became the lowest vote getter in round 1, they would then be eliminated. And on this sample ballot, the 3rd choice vote for candidate B actually becomes the 2nd choice and would be the next valid vote on this sample. So I'm going to talk a little bit briefly about a very simplistic, excuse me, tabulation process and how it works. So in this scenario, we're going to have 4 candidates, A, B, C, and D, 20 total votes. So if no candidate gets 11 votes in the 1st round, then we're going to continue the tabulation as the law requires. So our 1st round, this is all just hypothetical, just trying to keep it simple. We've given 7 votes to candidate A, 6 votes to candidate B, 3 votes to candidate C, and 4 votes to candidate D. Nobody reached the 50% plus 1 vote. So the law says if that happens, then you have to go to round 2, which means you eliminate the candidate with the least number of votes from round 1. So in this example, that would be candidate C. So candidate C is eliminated. And if you voted for that candidate, your vote goes to your next choice on your ballot, and you still have a say in who wins. So in this very simplistic example, we're saying that of those 3 ballots that had candidate C marked as first, the next viable choice on the ballot, one was for candidate A, on another ballot it was for candidate B, and for another on another ballot it was for candidate D. So the law says also that the tabulation rounds continue if after round 1 nobody gets 50% plus 1 vote until there are only 2 remaining candidates. So we keep going. So in this example, our new totals are candidate A has 8 votes, candidate B has 7 votes, and candidate D now has 5 votes. So candidate D has the least number of votes and is going to be eliminated. And we're going to look at those ballots and determine the next valid vote for the remaining candidates. So again, in our very hypothetical situation here, we look at the ballots that for candidate D that were in from round 2 and determine where do those votes go for the remaining candidates. And just to keep this simple and end it now, we assigned 4 votes to candidate B and 1 vote to candidate A. So candidate A now has 9 votes and candidate B now has 11 votes. So candidate B, because there's only 2 candidates left, wins and happens to win with 11 votes, which is also the 50% plus 1 vote. So what voters and the public, candidates, the electorate of Alaska can expect on election night? When we first created this PowerPoint, we created it thinking that our first ranked choice voting election would be in November. So it's not, it's going to be, excuse me, in August, but we'll talk about that later. But the rules all still apply and the same procedures are going to stay in place. So on election night, we're going to count all the first choice votes like we always have from the precincts, and some absentee and early votes will be counted. And we're going to release those unofficial results as we always have. And then we're going to continue from election night through day 15, which is the last day for the division to receive that any absentee ballots, and also the last day for our boards, our absentee and question review boards, to finish processing ballots. So we'll finish counting first choice votes, and every night we count, we're going to release a new unofficial totals of votes. And no ranking tabulation is going to take place until after day 15. On day 15, after all the valid ballots have been tabulated. Another reason for that is that we have 130 precincts that are hand counted, and we actually need to have those ballots back at the division so we can scan them on a scanner to capture an image of that grid, the grid ballot, so the computer knows how to adjust for the rankings in all the tabulation rounds. So on day 15 after the election, we will look at our unofficial results and determine which races do not have a 50% plus 1 vote winning candidate. And then we'll start the tabulation rounds, and we'll continue that night until, you know, there are 2 candidates left and the candidate with the most votes is going to win. The actual tabulation part of things, the ranked choice tabulation, does not take any time at all. And the division plans to produce reports when we are done, showing all the first round votes, like I put in my hypothetical example, all the first round votes. And then it will show what happened in round 2, which candidate got eliminated, and how many of those ballots then got transferred to the remaining candidates. And we will make those reports available on election night. So that's basically ranked choice voting in a really short summary. Of course, I just always want to caution and let people know that all our results are unofficial until the State Review Board goes through and does their certification and checks all that the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, and everything balances. And at that point, then the election would be deemed certified. We have a variety of materials available on our website, and I'm hoping, you know, Catherine and Marge can get our link out to you guys so you can take a gander at the website. There's FAQs, there's videos. So hopefully the information the division is providing is helpful to voters. So I'm going to stop sharing now and turn it over to Catherine.
Thanks, Gail. That was a great and quick overview. Couple of questions that came in while you were talking. First one is, I'm so confused about the August ballot. What will be on that?
Okay, well, take heart, you're not alone. There are many people who are confused, and for very good reasons, because it's going to be an election like no other. It was already going to be different just for the nonpartisan primary. So what you will see on your August 16th ballot, we're still debating what the ballot layout is going to look like. And we honestly have not come to a final decision on if it's going to be one ballot or two ballots, or if it's one ballot, where is the special ranked choice voting election going to be, at the beginning or at the end? But so what you can expect, unofficially, because we're really not 100% certain, but if you're going to have your traditional primary races on your ballot first, so you'll have United States Senator, you'll have United States Representative, you'll have Governor, Lieutenant Governor, State Senate, and State Rep. So there's 19 state Senate seats up. All of the Senate seats are up again this year, with the exception of Senate District T, and all 40 House districts are up. So those will be on the ballot. And then there will be the special general election to fill the vacancy for Congressman Young. And that will have the top 4 candidates from this June 11th special primary. And that will be the race, the only race on that ballot that you actually rank. You'll rank your candidates 1 to 4 or 5 if there are write-ins and you are so inclined. The other thing I did want to say, do not be surprised if you see the name of some candidates on the regular primary race for United States Representative. They may also be on the special general election race for United States Representative as well, because we have had candidates file for both the special primary and the regular primary. So chances are you may see names more than once in 2 different spots on the ballot for the same race, but one would just be for the primary and one would be then to fill the vacancy for Congressman Young that would be filled as soon as the election is certified until sometime in January of 2023. Did that help, or did that make things more confusing?
No, that's great, Gail. I actually did have a question come in about why we're having 2 elections. Aren't the special election candidates the same as those we would see on the general election primary? So I think you addressed that, clarifying that the special election is for a candidate to fill the rest of Don Young's, to serve the rest of Don Young's term, while the candidates in the general election will be filling the seat moving forward following the end of that term.
The November general election,
yeah,
yes.
The November general.
Yes.
Okay, question about how to vote. Heard a lot about mail-in voting and ballots. The special election, the special primary is mail only. Can I vote in person? When can I do that? How can I find polling locations?
Great question. It has been deemed a all by mail election, but we are having opportunity for people to vote in person starting 15 days before the election. So starting May 27th, there will be absentee in person / early voting locations open scattered around the state. We have a list on our website. And Catherine, if you don't already have that, I can send that link to you as well, that you can get out to your people out here.
Perfect. That would be great, Gail, if you would share that, and I'd be happy to share that with tonight's attendees.
Sure.
So the next question is about how voting tabulation works. This is a clarifying question. If my first choice gets eliminated, then that vote goes to my next choice. If my second choice gets eliminated, then my third choice gets 2 extra votes. Am I understanding this correctly?
Okay, so let's just go candidate A, B, C. So
Yep.
candidate A is your first choice, B is your second, C is your third. So candidate A gets eliminated. Is that what the first choice gets eliminated? Is that what they
That's
said?
correct.
Okay. So candidate A gets eliminated in round 1. So then they're going to look at your ballot, and candidate B is going to get your next choice vote. So then if candidate B gets eliminated and candidate C is your third choice, candidate C would then get your vote. It's not really voting 3 times. I didn't catch the second part of that question. I'm sorry. Could you?
No, I think you've got it there, Gail. It's about what happens when candidate B is eliminated, and whether or not candidate C would then get 1 vote or 2 additional votes. And you're clarifying that it's just the 1 vote that carries through from candidate A to B to C, depending on the elimination of the candidates.
Correct. Each candidate only gets 1 vote in each round. So I don't know if I really said that right, but it's only 1 vote at a time. So yes.
Right. And it's only counted contingent on the elimination of candidates. Correct. So really your first choice vote, that vote is going to stick to your first choice until such time as that candidate is eliminated.
Right. So if your first choice vote never gets eliminated, then that's your vote. I mean, there's never going to be any need to look at the other ranked candidates for that race.
Perfect, Gail.
So Gail, can we play that out a little bit more in terms of what happens if your candidate's eliminated and you didn't vote a second, third, or fourth choice?
Well, what would happen then is that your candidate gets eliminated and then your ballot is deemed inactive for that race then, because there's no further candidates to then redistribute the votes to. So if you're—
So there's a benefit to ranking additional candidates so long as they are candidates that you would support actually winning.
It's totally voter choice. Voters, if they decide that's how they feel they want to do that, yes. I wouldn't use the word maximize, but you know, you really love candidate A, you'd be okay if candidate B won, but you don't like C or D at all, then it probably would behoove you to, you know, rank 2 candidates, but it's totally up to the voter to decide that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, Gail, I'll follow up because I actually received a question that speaks to what you just said, which is, what should I do if there's a candidate that I just vehemently oppose? Should I still rank that person, but rank them much lower? Should I not rank them at all?
You know, I don't like to get in discussions of advising people how to vote. I think, I mean, that's your choice. I mean, the way the Better Elections people are talking about it, and I'm paraphrasing what Jason Grin says, but something along, you know, if there's one candidate you just say no way, then they say don't rank them, but it's your choice. It is totally your choice. I'm not going to advocate to rank or not rank that candidate. I think that's something you just have to determine individually as a voter.
That's perfect. And for folks who are interested in hearing more from Gail and Alaskans for Better Elections, Jason Grin, we will be having a telephone town hall with Gail and Jason on May 19th, and we'd love to have you join us. So Gail, I'm just going to keep hitting you with questions if that's okay with you. This seems like a lot of extra work for your division. Are you hiring?
Are we hiring? We need poll workers. If you want to be an election worker and get your hands wet and dirty, come on over. We could use you. It's extra work, but actually the work is more on the education side of things, educating voters, getting the word out. So the actual tabulation of stuff really didn't change much. I mean, there's not truly extra work involved with that. It's getting the word out and trying to educate voters, because there are a lot of people, which to me seems foreign, that have no idea this is even out there, because of course I live and breathe this and eat and sleep and dream it. So, that's our challenge. That's the mountain we have to climb, is getting the word out to people. So doing presentations like this and being able to talk to groups is very helpful, because then you can have discussions with people and I know AARP has done a train the trainer, right? And people are going out and giving presentations, and that's how we're going to hopefully conquer this mountain. But I will give a plug for election workers. We're always looking.
That's great, Gail. It's always good to know where you can plug in. And speaking of which, Gail did mention that AARP Alaska did do a train the trainer session to get our volunteers up to speed on what has changed in Alaska elections. And we would love to have you join that volunteer corps and help us to spread the word. As Gail said, the best thing that we can do is help to do outreach and to spread the word, just even in our social circles, to our families and friends, about what has changed and what they can expect in the coming months. Go ahead.
I also highly encourage you, if you hear things that you think just don't sound right, come to the division and get the facts, because we're your trusted source. I mean, we're here to provide factual information. So if you're hearing something that just doesn't sound right to you and you want clarification, give any of our offices a call, and we're more than willing to walk you through and guide you through things. So just putting that plug out there too, because we know this day and age there is a lot of misinformation that floats around. So
perfect. So Gail, a question back to talking about voting in person, voting by mail. I have my ballot voted and ready to go here in my kitchen. Will folks be getting another ballot that just lands in their mailboxes come November?
Not unless they apply for it. You have to apply to get a ballot in the mail for the August 16th primary / special general election and the November 8th general election. So if you want to vote by mail in those elections, you have to submit an application, and you can submit that now. And you can choose to receive ballots for both elections or just one election. So, but you do need to submit that application. This special primary election was different because the law does allow, under special circumstances, to be able to do an all by mail election.
Okay, Gail, I'm going to go back to a question about vote tabulation and ranking. The question is about write-in candidates. What happens with write-ins? It seems like write-ins would always be the candidate with the least votes and just get eliminated right away.
That's true, because the law, like I said, the Better Elections Initiative did not address write-ins, and there were already rules in statute on how you deal with write-ins. And so we also have implemented a regulation just to clarify this, that if write-ins are not number one or number two within a certain percentage difference from number one, they're going to get eliminated as a group. So they're just going to get eliminated at the very beginning. So they would essentially be round one elimination. And then we would go to the second choice on all those ballots.
Great. Well, Gail, that covers the questions that I've received from online. Marge, have you seen any other questions roll in?
I have, yes. On the primary, you had mentioned, you talked about the results and sharing the results of the tabulation rounds with ranked choice voting on the general election in November. On the primary, when will we know as Alaskans who those top 4 candidates are that are going forward onto the general election ballot?
Great question. We have a target certification date for the special primary of June 25th. So as soon as the election is certified by the State Review Board, and right now we think that date's going to be about June 25th. So then you will know who your top 4 candidates are that will advance to the special general election in August. I know it's confusing because there's a primary, special primary, and a primary, then there's a special general and the general. So we're really trying to clarify what's going to be on what ballot. So
for the August primary, what about that date?
Certification for the August primary. Oh, I have to look at my trusty little election calendar here. So
You're focused on the first one coming up quickly.
our target date for the regular primary election on August 16th / special general election is September 2nd.
Thank you. And then I've noticed in the news just today that U.S. Congress candidates who are on the special election ballot are now, some of them, filing to be on the general election. So I think one area of potential confusion for folks is that there's those 2 elections, if you will, on the same day for the same race. And so I guess one of my questions is around when the candidate filing deadline is for that August primary. And then second, if you could just kind of repeat the parallel races or parallel votes on that particular seat.
Sure. So June 1st is the candidacy filing deadline for the August 16th primary. So obviously the deadline has already come and gone for the special primary. So June 1st is the deadline for candidates to file for the August 16th primary election for United States Senate, United States Rep, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, State Senate, and State House. Now the August 16th primary election will have those 5 races I just mentioned, plus it will have a race that will be called the special general election race. And it will only be for United States Representative, and it will have 4 candidates. And that race will be a ranked choice voting race. Because it's considered a general election, it has to be done by ranked choice voting according to the law. And there may be a possibility, like you said, Marge, and I mentioned earlier, you may see, and there's going to be quite a long list of candidates who are filing for United States Rep for the primary, for the August 16th primary, to be seated for the full 2-year congressional term. And you may see some of those names on the special general list as well.
But not necessarily.
Not necessarily. It'll just depend on what happens with this June 11th election and who actually all files for by June 1 for the August 16th election.
Thank you. So just a follow-up question on that one and the previous one on how to vote. Will the special general and August primary combo both be done at the polls?
Yes, they will be. They will return to your traditional in-person election with the option for people to vote by mail if they submit an application. And we'll also have the same early voting, absentee and in-person voting starting 15 days before the primary and the general.
Thank you. And when you file for an absentee by mail, and you mentioned you could do that for the primary and the general, is that one application or do you have to do it twice, one for each?
It's one application. There's a box at the top that says, check what elections you want your ballot for, and you can pick primary, general, all in calendar year, I think is what it says. It's just one application. Just make sure make sure when you do that, that you have a good mailing address, a good ballot mailing address. If you want it mailed to an address other than your permanent mailing address, make sure you put that on your application. There's a spot for that as well. Or there's a spot for just send it to my permanent mailing address. Mailing addresses are very, very important.
Absolutely. So if you're snowbirding come November, you could request absentee for that one, and
Yes.
have it mailed out of state to you.
That's correct.
Thank you.
And Gail,
Katie, back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a question about the law related to the election changes. It was mentioned that this voter initiative for ranked choice voting was not subject to change for the first 2 years. Who or what body could actually make changes? And is there a limit as to what changes could be made?
Well, the legislature would be the body who would enact changes, since they are the ones who who enact the laws in the state of Alaska. It can't be repealed for 2 years, but it's my understanding that there can be changes made as long as it does not significantly alter the intent of the initiative. So there could be some very minor changes, but nothing like you couldn't say, we're going to get rid of the primary system and go back to the way it used to be, because that would be a substantial change.
Thank you. And speaking of the way that it used to be, now that I know your long history with divisional elections, I also know that we used to have one ballot at the primary. And so can you speak to when that changed to the separate party ballots, and if that's different, if our previous single ballot is different from what's happening coming this year?
I believe that it changed in 1994. So before, I actually can't recall what the ballot looked like when there was one ballot, but I'm pretty sure it had all candidates. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and look. I'll try to dig one up and send it to Catherine so she can pass that around. But I believe the law changed in 1990 or 94. I have a history of primary elections in Alaska. I'll send that to Catherine too.
Super. I would imagine some of the things from the ballot initiative are specific, like the lieutenant governor pairing on this ballot, and perhaps the lack of endorsement disclaimer.
Yeah, that's specific. That was specifically written in the bill. And so there's also specific language we have to put in the official election pamphlet and posters in the polling places that are, that were actually written into the law.
Okay. So question, I believe you mentioned this in your presentation, but if you could reiterate and then talk about a timeline for letting the public know as to whether the special general and the August primary are going to be on separate ballots or the same.
I hope to have that decision made by June 1st. So I'm hoping we've got to have some more internal discussions, and then just do some sample ballot layouts to look and see, and run that by the Department of Law and see what their thoughts are on it as well. But I'm hoping by June 1st.
Thank you. And then do voters, will they receive an election guide in the mail that shows the sample ballot, etc.?
Not for the primary election. There's no ballot pamphlet, but we will have sample ballots on our website as soon as they're available. And usually they're available sometime in July. So sample ballots would be available on our website, I think, starting in July for the August 16th election.
Thank you. And Katie, before we go to wrap up, do you have any final questions coming in?
I do. I have one clarifying question for Gail, just about the sample ballots. The sample ballots, there are already sample ballots posted on the Division of Elections website. They are just not the sample ballots in that they do not include the actual candidates. Is that right, Gail?
That's correct. I mean, we have sample ballots of what a top four, what a nonpartisan primary will look like and what a ranked choice voting election will look like. But we won't have the sample ballot ready for the August 16th primary until sometime after the candidacy withdrawal deadline, which is June 25th. So sometimes toward the end of June, you can expect the real sample ballot for the August 16th elections to be posted on the website.
Okay, great. I just wanted to let folks know that if you were just looking to see what ballots are going to look like, the Division of Elections is Johnny on the spot. They've already got ballots up that you could take a look at.
Great.
So Gail, I wonder if, sorry, Marge, to cut you off, but I wonder if as we wrap up, if you could share that last slide with the contact information for the Division of Elections, just so that as we close, folks can make sure to take note of that contact information.
Certainly, I will open it up here again.
And Marge, I'm sorry for interrupting you. I'll throw it back to you now.
No worries, no worries. I'm gonna let her get that up, and then and also Gail, to give you a chance of where people should call or email with questions to Division of Elections, and where they should apply to be poll workers.
So elections@alaska.gov is a good email for people to email questions. That's our director's office email account, and it's monitored daily, and we're pretty good at responding pretty quickly. So and as far as election workers, wherever you live in the state, if you know, you can call the regional office for your area. So the Anchorage folks will call Anchorage. I can give that contact information to Catherine too, and she could share that. So people in Southeast would contact our Region 1 office here in Juneau. Anchorage folks would contact the Region 2 office in Anchorage. Mat-Su-Borough folks would contact our Region 5 office in Wasilla. Fairbanks folks would contact our, Fairbanks and Interior Alaska, contact our Region 3 office. And then the northwestern part of the state would contact our Nome office. But I'll send that link to Catherine too. And I can share this screen with you. Whoops. Is that big enough for you to see? Can you see it?
It could be a little bigger.
Okay, so let me try something else.
That's okay, Gail. I can provide another resource here. I'll share my screen. How about?
Okay.
And I'm going to tell folks about a upcoming some of the upcoming events that we have to learn more on elections and elections changes that Katie mentioned. We have a telephone town hall coming up on Thursday, May 19th with Gail Fenumiai, Director of the Division of Alaska Elections, and Lieutenant Governor Kevin Meyer. And a telephone town hall is much like a radio talk show, so it's audio only. And you can sign up to be called, or you may get a call automatically if you have a landline and you're a member of AARP. That's coming up next week. And then on the 25th, we have another webinar with Jason Gren from Alaskans for Better Elections. So another voice on learning how all of this works. And you can find all of these things on our webpage at aarp.org/AK-votes, or you can text AK votes to 22777, and it will give you a link to that page. And on AARP's election page, voter guide page, you will find all of our education events, as well as information that you heard tonight and links to the Division of Elections.
Okay, I can share that last screen for you if you would like. And oops, I can't do it while you're sharing. So there we go.
There you go.
Let's try that one. Did it work?
Yes, looks
All
beautiful.
right.
Great, and some opportunities for folks who want to get involved further. You heard about the need for poll workers and contacting the regional office off of the Division of Elections page. Here at AARP, we have some opportunities as well. We have a voter education volunteer team who will be doing a number of voter education outreach events from the state fairs in both Palmer and Fairbanks. They will be doing presentations in their local communities, at senior centers and civic organizations and other areas where older Alaskans get together. Additionally, we are recruiting for a volunteer and outreach associate state director position on our staff. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out to AARP, and perhaps Katie, you could put the email address in the chat. And we are also recruiting for a paid college student internship in communications. So those are some of the opportunities if you want to get more involved in work around the elections this year and more with AARP or with Division of Elections. And with that, I'd like to thank Director Gail Fenumiai with the Alaska Division of Elections for sharing her wealth of knowledge and experience and oversight of our state elections. And thank you all for joining us tonight. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.